The body of a woman can lie with a smile, but never with her silence. I understood that phrase after years of observing, analyzing, and falling into the same traps that most men do. We think we understand women. We think that when they smile, avoid our gaze, or play with their hair, it's obvious what they mean. But very few realize that behind those gestures lies a hidden language, one that isn't spoken, one that isn't taught, but one that is felt. Most men go through life completely blind to it. They see the signs, but they can't interpret them. They feel the desire, but they don't understand where it comes from. And that's the real problem. The female body never lies, but the average man doesn't know how to listen. My name is Melkor Huamán, expert in persuasion, manipulation, and dark psychology. And today I'm going to reveal something that might make you uncomfortable. But if you truly understand it, it will transform your perception forever. Because what a woman says with her words can be false. But what she says with her body, with her breathing, with the way she moves around you, that is the naked truth her mind is trying to hide. I've spent years studying the roots of human attraction and non-verbal communication, and there's one universal law I learned from Paul Ekman, the father of micro-expressions. The body always reveals what the mind tries to conceal. When a woman feels desire, curiosity, or attraction, her body enters a silent conflict between what she wants and what she thinks she should show, and it's right there, in that tension between impulse and control, where the real signs of attraction appear. But let me be clear, this isn't about manipulation. This is about awareness, about seeing what others can't see, about awakening a deeper level of perception that makes you read reality, not illusion. Robert Cialdini, one of the great masters of influence, said, "Human behavior is predictable once you understand the unconscious impulses behind it. Desire is no exception. Attraction is a silent negotiation of power, a dance where every movement, every glance, every pause carries meaning. For example, when a woman steps closer and then suddenly steps back, it doesn't always mean rejection. Often, she's testing your energy, measuring your confidence. It's an ancient instinct carved deep into female psychology. As Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War, appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. Seduction is simply a modern form of that same silent war, not with weapons, but with looks, postures, and silence. Edward Bernays, the father of modern manipulation, taught that every human action can be guided if you understand the invisible strings of desire. And women, consciously or not, have mastered those strings. A slight head tilt, a lingering smile, the crossing of legs, or a brief touch that lasts half a second longer than necessary. These are not coincidences. They are signals, openings, or traps, depending on how you choose to see them. So why don't men see the obvious? Because we've been taught to listen to words, not to observe silences. Because we focus on what is said, not on what is felt, and that mistake separates the ordinary men from the powerful ones. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote, "He who masters his impulses masters others." In the psychology of attraction, that truth cuts even deeper. He who masters interpretation masters the game, not by faking, not by forcing, but by understanding. I've analyzed hundreds of interactions, gestures, micro-movements, emotional triggers, and I've confirmed one undeniable truth. The female body is a masterpiece of emotional control. A woman can hide her thoughts, but not the subtle dilation of her pupils, the shift in her breathing, the angle of her torso, or the trembling of her fingers when she feels something real. Kevin Dutton, in his studies on functional psychopathy, explains that true power doesn't come from feeling more. It comes from observing better. When you can observe without speaking, without reacting, you become a dominant presence, calm, aware, magnetic. That's why understanding female body language isn't a trick. It's a form of enlightenment. Dark psychology isn't about deceiving others. It's about illuminating your own blind spots. When you learn to read the signs, you stop reacting and start deciding. You stop playing their game. Because now you see the board. I've seen men lose control over a smile, and others stay calm under the same fire. And that calmness, that quiet mastery in chaos, is what makes them irresistible. Because real power isn't in speaking. It's in perceiving. It isn't in conquering. It's in understanding. Once you grasp this, every feminine gesture stops being a mystery and becomes a code. A code that, when you learn to read it, gives you intelligence, respect, and emotional control. I'm Melkor Huamán, and this is Invisible Power. I don't teach men to fake confidence. I teach them to awaken the power that already lives within. And I'll warn you, after you finish this video, you will never look at a woman the same way again. Because behind every kind word, every subtle movement, every fleeting smile, lies a hidden story written in the oldest language in the world, the language of the body. Prepare yourself, because what you're about to learn won't just show you how to recognize desire. It will teach you how to master the art of perception itself. Every gesture is a message, every glance, every shift in posture, every subtle change in breathing is a reflection of something deeper, ancient, and instinctive. To truly understand women and human desire itself, you must stop hearing with your ears and start seeing with your awareness. When I study body language, I don't look for cliches. I don't care if she touches her hair, crosses her legs, or bites her lip. Those are surface-level observations, distractions for the inexperienced. Real dark psychology goes beneath that. It asks, why did she do it? Was it spontaneous or deliberate? Was it an act of attraction or a weapon of control? Robert Greene once said, "Mastery is the process of seeing what others overlook." That's exactly what you must become, a silent observer who reads beneath the performance. Let me tell you something few dare to say. Women are trained, consciously or not, to use body language as both a shield and a sword. It's not manipulation, it's survival. From a young age, they learn that their gestures have power, that a look can draw protection, attention, or advantage. As Edward Bernays taught, people rarely make rational choices. They respond to symbols, emotions, and unconscious triggers. The female body learned to use those triggers long before psychology gave them a name. Now, let's break down what that means. When a woman feels true desire, her control system, the prefrontal cortex, begins to lose dominance over her limbic brain, the emotional core. That's when her pupils dilate, her tone lowers, and her body subtly aligns toward you. But when she pretends to be interested, those signals are mismatched. Her smile might appear, but her eyes stay sharp, her body slightly angled away, her feet pointing toward the exit. The difference is microscopic, unless you know what to look for. That's where Paul Ekman's work becomes a weapon. He discovered that micro-expressions, those fleeting facial movements lasting less than half a second, reveal true emotion. Before the brain can censor it, a quick flash of arousal, surprise, or even discomfort can tell you more than 1,000 words. To catch them, you must train your perception. Slow your own mind until silence becomes your ally. That's what I teach, awareness as power, because the more present you are, the more visible the invisible becomes. Now listen carefully. This is where most men fail. When they detect interest, they react impulsively. They lean in, they chase, they show excitement. But that breaks the spell. It tells her subconscious that you are reactive, not grounded. And in evolutionary psychology, reactivity equals weakness. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote, "He who cannot master himself will always be mastered by others." In attraction, this law is absolute. A woman may show you signs of desire, but she's also watching how you handle that knowledge. Do you become intoxicated by it? Do you rush to prove yourself, or do you stay calm, letting silence do the talking? That calm, that almost predatory stillness, is what ignites her curiosity and respect, because deep down, the female psyche craves polarity. The stronger her emotional storm, the more she seeks a center, someone who doesn't get carried away by the waves. That's why the most powerful men in seduction aren't loud. They're still. They watch, they listen, they speak less but with purpose, and when they move, every gesture feels deliberate, like a slow burn of confidence. Now, let's address another truth. Some women, especially those with high social intelligence, use attraction strategically, not out of malice, but instinct. They understand that attention equals power, and they know exactly how to harvest it. This is what Kevin Dutton calls functional psychopathy, the ability to use emotional detachment as a tool of influence. They can simulate vulnerability, attraction or warmth, not to connect but to control the energy of the room. Recognizing this doesn't make you paranoid, it makes you prepared. Because when you can read intention, you no longer fall into emotional traps. You become the observer, not the prey. Let me share a short story. A client once told me about a woman he met at a networking event. She was elegant, magnetic, and during the entire conversation, her eyes barely left his. He was convinced she was interested. He texted her, complimented her, followed up again and again, until she finally responded, asking for a favor, introducing her to one of his business partners. She never desired him, she desired access. Her body language wasn't lying, it was playing. That day, he learned what I teach now. Attraction can be genuine, strategic, or both, but if you can't tell the difference, you'll always be the pawn, never the player. To master dark psychology is to accept human duality. Not all gestures mean love. Not all smiles mean kindness, but if you learn to read them, you'll never be fooled again. Sun Tzu wrote, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles." In this context, enemy doesn't mean woman, it means ignorance. When you know what's real and what's theater, the game changes. You stop fighting for validation. You start observing patterns, you stop chasing, and become the gravity others are drawn to. Remember this rule. Man who understands desire doesn't run after it. He stands still and lets it reveal itself. That's the essence of dark psychology applied ethically, not to control others, but to master your own reactions to their influence. When you can do that, no body language can deceive you. You become untouchable because you no longer seek approval. You interpret truth, and that, my friend, is where true masculine power begins. Observation without transformation is useless. You can learn every gesture, every sign of attraction, every psychological principle. But if you don't embody it, it becomes nothing more than information. And information without awareness is just noise. So let's turn what you've learned into power. To apply dark psychology ethically, you must begin where all influence begins, within yourself. Before you can read others, you must first control the signals you emit. You can't expect to decode someone's unconscious if your own mind is chaotic. The truth is simple. Your energy communicates before your words do. When you walk into a room, your posture, breathing, and rhythm already speak. People feel your stability, or your need. Women especially can sense it almost instantly. It's not mystical, it's neurological. Their brains are wired to detect microtensions in the faces and voices of others, a survival mechanism refined by thousands of years of evolution. So, the first principle of applying dark psychology ethically is inner regulation. Control your breath, control your tone, control your impulses, because the one who controls himself becomes impossible to control. Robert Cialdini called it the law of consistency. People trust what feels congruent. If your words say one thing but your body another, your message collapses. But when your inner state aligns with your outer expression, you radiate something that can't be faked. Coherence, and coherence is magnetic. Every morning, I train this through silence. 10 minutes of complete stillness. Not meditation in the spiritual sense, but as a form of psychological calibration. In silence, you begin to notice how loud your thoughts really are. You start to separate emotion from observation, and once that gap appears, you gain control over how you respond. Sun Tzu said, "In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity." That's what silence gives you, the space to act from control, not compulsion. Now, let's go deeper into behavior. Every man who masters influence has rituals. He moves slowly, deliberately. He speaks with pauses that command attention. He listens not to answer, but to read, because listening is the purest form of power. You see, in psychology, silence creates tension, and tension creates focus. When you don't rush to fill the air, others reveal more than they intended. Their body starts talking for them. Their eyes wander to what they truly desire. Their tone betrays emotion, and if you're patient enough, they will show you exactly who they are. That's how manipulation is neutralized, not by fighting it, but by understanding it so deeply that it can't touch you. There's an ancient rule I live by: never react. Always respond. Reaction is emotional. Response is strategic. When you react, you lose control. When you respond, you dictate rhythm. So when you see the signs, the dilated pupils, the gentle mirroring of your movements, the subtle exposure of the neck or wrist, stay still, don't rush. Don't celebrate internally. Observe. If it's genuine, the signal will repeat itself without your push. If it's a test, your calm will make you pass it. Remember, a woman's attraction grows in uncertainty, but her respect grows in restraint. Niccolò Machiavelli taught that men are driven by two forces, love and fear. In attraction, it translates into curiosity and respect. Give too much of yourself too soon, and you kill curiosity. Lose your composure, and you lose respect. But when you stay grounded, confident, measured, intentional, she feels both. That's the paradox of masculine magnetism. The less you try to convince, the more believable you become. Now let's talk about practice, mental and behavioral habits that forge this inner mastery. Observation training. Spend 1 day a week in public spaces, a cafe, a park, a subway. Watch people. Notice how they react to silence, proximity, or eye contact. Don't judge, just read. It sharpens the neural circuits that detect micro-behavior. Mirror discipline practice, expressing calm in front of a mirror. Neutral face, soft jaw, steady gaze. You'll start noticing how your emotions shift your micro-expressions. Control them, because others read them even unconsciously. Emotional delay. When you feel triggered, attraction, anger, or fear, wait 5 seconds before speaking. In those 5 seconds, you'll feel the difference between instinct and intention. That's the gap between the reactive and the powerful. Strategic silence. In conversation, don't rush to fill pauses. Let silence work. It forces others to reveal their psychology. It's one of the oldest tactics in persuasion, used by interrogators, negotiators, and yes, master seducers. At this point, if you're still here, it means you're part of that small percentage that doesn't just want to watch psychology. You want to live it. That's why I invite you, not as a follower, but as a student of influence, to subscribe to Invisible Power. Here, I don't teach tricks, I teach perception. I teach awareness, I teach the kind of self-control that makes you magnetic without saying a word, because the goal of dark psychology isn't to dominate others, and it's to stop being dominated by your own emotional chaos. It's to become the calm center in a world addicted to reaction. It's to turn the unseen into understanding, and understanding into power. So remember this. The woman who seems mysterious is not the one who hides. It's the one you haven't yet learned to read, and the man who seems powerful isn't the one who controls others. It's the one who controls himself. That's where true seduction begins, miss, and where manipulation ends. There comes a moment in every man's journey when knowledge stops being theory and becomes identity. You've learned to observe, to control, to decode. But the question is, and what will you do with that power now? Dark psychology isn't about bending others to your will. It's about awakening the part of you that refuses to be deceived. The man who sees truth cannot unsee it. And once you recognize how the world manipulates emotion through gestures, words, and silence, you have only 2 choices: to use that awareness for control or for clarity. That's the final test. Every time you walk into a room, every time you meet someone's eyes, you're influencing and being influenced. It's not good or bad, it's human. But the difference between those who control the game and those who are controlled by it lies in one thing: self-awareness. Robert Greene said, "When you can control the meaning of events, you control the world. But to do that, you must first control the meaning you give yourself, because the most powerful manipulation begins in your own head, in the story you tell about who you are." So here's my challenge to you. From now on, before reacting to anyone's behavior, a pause. Ask yourself, is this real or is this a projection? Am I choosing or am I being led? That question alone will protect you from 90% of manipulation. And when it comes to women, remember, the goal isn't to decode every gesture to gain advantage. It's to understand the hidden dialogue of human emotion, so that you no longer move blindly through desire, fear, and ego, When you master perception, you stop chasing validation. You stop seeking approval. You begin to operate from presence, and presence is magnetic. I've met men who memorized every book on psychology and influence, but couldn't look someone in the eye without revealing their insecurity. And I've met others, silent, calm, self-contained, who could command attention with a single glance. The difference wasn't knowledge, it was alignment. True mastery is invisible. It's the calm tone when others raise their voices. It's the patience to let silence expose truth. It's the decision to understand, not to dominate. That's why I built invisible power, and not to create manipulators, but to awaken observers. Because once you can read people, the world stops being chaotic. You see patterns, you see cycles, you see yourself. So before this video ends, I'll leave you with one thought. If body language reveals what the mind hides, then what does your body say when no one is watching? Maybe that's where your real power begins. Not in deciphering others, but in decoding yourself. And when you do, everything changes. Because once you master perception, you don't just see through others, you see through illusion itself. This is Melkor Huamán, and this is invisible power, where the mind learns to see what the eyes never could.